All right. Happy Easter Monday, everyone. He is risen, but the Pope is not.
R.I.P. R.I.H.
That was not probably the best way of breaking that news, but yes, Pope Francis has passed on. It probably wasn't J.D. Vance's fault, but it's kind of funny that people are saying that it is. The timeline we live in is quite a thing.
Remarkably entertaining.
Yeah. I do want to open up today's episode with the verse of the Bible that was read at both of our different services. I went to an Anglican Catholic service. He went to a Roman Catholic service.
Correct.
No, Anglican Catholics are not in communion with Rome or, in fact, the Church of England.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it very much.
I can imagine.
I as I said on Twitter yesterday, I believe I have found my home. It's literally split off from the Episcopal Church.
Mm-hmm.
It is an entirely American Protestant high church.
Do they still do communion there?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Loved every minute of it. But yes, so the Pope is gone.
Way to say it. Oh, he's done. I gotta say, I think it was intentional on the Pope.
Oh, me too. That's what I was gonna say next. Is this man literally held out for Easter?
He did. That was just good on him.
Good on him. And I joke a little bit. I gotta poke fun at the Roman Catholics a little. For all my disagreements with Pope Francis, I do believe he was a good man and a well-intentioned man. I like that a major part of his reign as Pope was to try and bring the East and the West closer together and seek reconciliation. So, all jokes aside, very, for any disagreements I had with him, the man had a mission that I think was very important for Christianity. And I hope he will be remembered for the good he did rather than some of the more controversial things he said within the Christian community. So I am wishing all of the Catholics in the world, the best. I understand that there's a lot of mourning happening at the moment. But the good news is there will be a new Pope soon.
Exactly.
And hopefully,
in the meantime, they still have Jesus.
In the meantime, we've all still got Jesus, and that's what matters. And you know who else still had Jesus on the third day? The apostles. And I will be reading from John 20. John 20, the empty tomb. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre, which is not where the stone was supposed to be.
No.
Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple. Now I want to be clear. John does not say who the other disciple is here. Whom Jesus loved, the disciple whom Jesus loved. Now, as we know, this is how John refers to himself. But then she runneth, and she cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they both ran together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. Why is this one of my favorite verses of the Bible? It's because John, first of all, there is some conflict about whether or not the Gospels were written by their named authors. John's definitely was. There is no question in my mind about that.
Yep.
But John is like, yes, and as we came to the place where the Lord lies, I did outrun Peter. I am faster than Peter. Also, where everybody else said that one of the disciples cut somebody's ear off, it was Peter, just so we're all clear.
Yep.
These people were human, and I love it. But I thought Easter Monday, the Monday after Easter, I should say, the best thing we could do was open with one of the best passages of the Bible, that being the one in which John brags about beating Peter to the tomb.
Can we read those couple sentences?
You can read it from the Message.
From obviously the most accurate translation.
The most accurate Bible translation, the Message.
I'm only going to read the two sentences that are of note here. Peter and the other disciple left immediately for the tomb. They ran neck and neck. The other disciple got to the tomb first, outrunning Peter. That's it.
See, that doesn't give you nearly as much of the context.
No. Granted, I did read two sentences.
I know, but even within this one, it's just like, it's so much more aggressive.
But anyway, we're not here to learn about.
We're not here to learn about the Bible today. We are here to learn about people who pretended to be Christians while probably killing their daughter, in my opinion.
In Minecraft.
Allegedly. In Minecraft.
Unfortunately, not in Minecraft.
Not in Minecraft. Minecraft didn't exist yet. If it had, maybe Burke would have been too occupied.
It's true.
Not saying he did it.
But Minecraft probably does save lives.
Minecraft probably does save lives. But yeah, so obviously today we're going to be talking about the just odd behavior of the Ramsays, and also the fact that somehow the profiler, the John Douglas, the Mindhunter himself, did not see through several very obvious lies.
Well, to be fair, and I was thinking about this both while editing it and rewatching it, you mention it in the video, but I think it's a key point of contention where a lot of the things that you've pointed out as lies, both in that
Oh,
video,
he didn't know. He didn't have the information.
He wasn't
yet.
aware.
Yeah. No, not at all.
So it's not that he didn't pick up on a lie, it's that he wasn't even really given enough access to be able to discover them.
Yeah.
Per se.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
also, just as we're getting started with tonight's show, because super chats have become something that gets a little out of hand,
which we're grateful for.
Which we're very grateful for. We will, if we get to 8:30, we're going to go to super chats relatively early, probably 7:45. If we get to 8:30 p.m. and we are going to start by answering super chats that came in before 7:45. If we get to 8:30 p.m. and there are still super chats left over that came in before 7:45, we will answer those, but we will not answer things that came in after 7:45, because then it just gets to a point where the show will go on until 10. Now, if we get through those ones before 8:30 and there's one that came in after 7:45, we'll start answering them in chronological order. But just wanted to let people know so that they don't feel like, oh, I've wasted my money. We don't want you to send us money and then not get what you paid for. So just giving you that heads up ahead of time. Also, mods, if you could let people know that in the chat from from time to time, now and then, so that they are aware, we would appreciate that. But without further ado, I make a big deal of John Douglas's failures here, but I do have to give credit to him. He did not know most of the material. As far as he knew, he was being told a story that could be corroborated. He probably trusted that the attorneys knew the true story. The thing is, he sat down in front of John Ramsay and said something that I don't think he ever should have said, which was, "John, I believe you." Because the moment he did that, his credibility was shot. He told the rest of this team, he told Ramsay's lawyers, he said, you know what, my report will be oral. If you want a written one, I'll give it to you, but anything I put in writing can be subpoenaed. I might find things that you don't like, and if I do, then I will have to include them in my report. What astonishes me is that he had this meeting with John Ramsay before he sat down with the detectives, before he had a chance to review any information, and I proceeded to put all of this down in a book. And what really bothers me is him disparaging, and I don't think he's disparaging necessarily, but him writing down that things that Steve Thomas said weren't true, when his only evidence to the contrary was what John Ramsay told him. So for those, in case you haven't seen Friday's episode yet, the fifth part in the John Bonet series, we covered three main things. One of them was the problem with the leaks, how information was being fed to the press, being fed to the Ramsay team's lawyers, and one of the things that the police had to do early on in this investigation was figure out where that was coming from. We haven't gotten to it in the actual series yet, but for example, I covered the part where Sergeant Larry Mason, was accused and actually suspended, investigated. He ended up suing of leaking information to CNN. And the reason that Eller suspected him was because Steve Thomas reported to Eller that Mason was around the press a lot, that he seemed distracted. He didn't really seem like he was investigating the case all that intensely, even though Mason and Thomas, up to that point, had a pretty good relationship. They had worked together a number of times. Mason had defended Thomas for certain things, like when Thomas was involved in some police-involved shootings. So this kind of broke down their relationship. Mason is eventually investigated because Eller sets him up. He gives Mason information that then ends up in the press. Eventually, and I will spoil this for people now because I think what matters for you guys who watch this show is more having all the information to understand why we come from the position we do. Later on, Mason will be exonerated of that claim. And then, according to Detective Thomas, again, this is hearsay technically, but I've never seen Lawrence Schiller come out and deny that this happened. Thomas says later in his book that he says it at that part of the book, that later on he had dinner with Lawrence Schiller, the author of Perfect Murder, Perfect Town. And at that dinner, Schiller revealed to him that Mason, while having a conversation with Schiller for the same purpose, said, "You know it was me who was feeding Allie Krupski information, right?"
Classic.
Krupski didn't work for CNN. I think she was the Boulder Daily Camera. So she was local media. So no, Mason did not leak anything to CNN. But it does seem, because I've yet to see Schiller say this didn't happen, it does seem, based on Thomas's book, that Mason was leaking information to the press, just a different part of the press.
How far have you gotten in, because you've got 4 books, right? You've got Kohler, Thomas, with Larry, what is it? Schiller? No.
Lawrence Schiller,
and then John's, right?
Yeah, John Douglas. And I've also been poking around at what? And John Ramsey.
Yeah, so it's 5.
I also have the National Enquirer's book of all of the interview transcripts.
Okay, so technically 6.
And then the other John Ramsey and Patsy, the one they wrote together, so 7.
7.
I've skimmed through I've basically read Steve Thomas's book cover to cover several times now.
Yeah.
I have read through at least once most of Kohler's book, and I've been referencing it back and forth, skimming through it and going and finding what I need.
Yeah, you referenced a lot of Kohler this week.
Yeah, most of this week was Kohler because Thomas was so directly attached to it that I wanted to go with somebody who wasn't so directly involved in the story.
Primarily because you were too concerned about any emotional impact.
Yeah. Also, Kohler's came out 12 years later.
Okay.
So there's a lot of time that had passed. Kohler was dealing with a lot more information.
Yeah, a lot of clarification through hindsight.
Yeah. And then I went and I looked at John Douglas's. So those were the 3 I used, or 4 I used mostly, were Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, The Cases That Haunt Us, Jean Bonnet, Inside the Ramsay Investigation, and Kohler's is Foreign Faction.
Right.
Yeah. So I have 4 books this week.
So as you've been going through them, in relation to what you were just talking about, some corroboration, some not, what would you say is the percentage split of corroboration across all sources, excluding the Ramsay books, versus contradictory information?
Kohler and Thomas don't contradict each other.
At all?
They, in a few places, but it's mainly Kohler being like, this information wasn't available to police at the time.
Got it.
So there are points where Thomas might have said something that the information wasn't all there, but he was giving his perspective. I have yet to find a spot where there is a major contradiction between Kohler and Thomas, which is impressive considering there are 12 years between the books.
And also they're 2 very different viewpoints on the case.
Kohler was brought in, I think, in 2006 to investigate.
That much later.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he first gets involved in the case in 1997.
Right.
On like January 2nd or 3rd.
Yep.
Because he had been a Boulder police detective. He then took a promotion to go to Telluride and be the police chief. And like I said, the most Colorado stakeout of all time, them skiing down the mountain, literally
Did you
behind
like the
Pasta
B-roll?
Jay Olowski.
Yeah. Did you like I couldn't believe I found a picture of Jay
Yeah.
from his website for Pasta Jay.
My favorite thing has been all of the people from Boulder in the comments who are like, what do you mean Pasta Jay was involved in this?
I will say, the only person I cannot find images of, as you may have noticed from watching the series as we've gone along, Larry Mason.
That doesn't surprise me.
He is the only one who has successfully wiped himself from the internet.
Yeah, I don't know how he pulled that off, but he did.
And then, wait, so really quick. So Kohler and Thomas are very
much in agreement.
Very much in agreement. What about Schiller?
Schiller, I have found, he, again, hasn't really said anything that's contradicted Thomas and Kohler.
Mm-hmm.
He provides information that they don't, mainly because Thomas wrote his from his own perspective, and Kohler wrote his based on the case files and his own investigation, and him knowing Steve Thomas. Schiller's book brings in a lot more people, but not many of them that are that related to the case.
I was going to say, like, what type of people are we talking about?
That's the thing is, so he will, for example, he will quote Mason on things. And in those circumstances, I take what Schiller wrote. What I don't like to do is take anything that Schiller has that comes from a source that he doesn't directly cite.
Oh, so he'll cite people without necessarily giving their names?
He won't necessarily cite people, but he'll summarize information.
Got it.
Without saying, and this came from this place, and that came from this place. Thomas will say, and Tom Trujillo told me this, and I learned this from Eller, and I myself investigated this. Sergeant Wickman said this.
Got it.
And Kohler will do the same thing. Schiller writes his, but those are case studies.
Yeah.
Written by the investigators. Schiller's is more of a comprehensive book trying to cover all of the information.
Mm-hmm.
So on my end, there are some things that Schiller says that are technically secondary sources because he is quoting somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Thomas is a primary source. Thomas was there. Schiller asked Thomas a question. Thomas told him. Schiller's a secondary source.
So Schiller's...
And then there's things that Schiller says where he will summarize something, and that information came from somebody who heard about something from someone, at which point it's a tertiary source. I hate tertiary sources.
Yeah. It's a little less corroborable. His book is essentially functioning as more of a documentary type source rather than Kohler and Thomas, who are functioning it basically more like a case report that they would have submitted to the commanding officer.
They are case reports on steroids.
Yeah.
Whereas Schiller's is a documentary.
Got
it. Schiller's is basically a historical work. So it's different.
And then what about Douglas?
Douglas is also primary source because he is talking about his experience investigating the case.
Okay.
So what I've been using from Douglas, and I've used Douglas only in this video because it's the first time he's actually appeared in the case. For Douglas, what I take is basically his primary source stuff, what he was told, what he experienced. But the problem Douglas had, and this is going to become more apparent as we go on throughout the case, Douglas never had access to all of the information. He only had access to what the Ramsay team gave him.
Oh.
And his understanding coming in, and this was never explicitly said to him, but his understanding coming in was that he was hired to determine whether or not John Ramsay did it by John Ramsay's lawyers.
So this sounds similar to somebody we may have interviewed in the last few months.
Who are you talking
about? Missing kid.
Oh, Steve Fisher?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't even think Steve Fisher was brought in because he wasn't hired by the lawyers. He was hired by the Proudfoots.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I consider it basically the same.
I see what you're saying, yeah. So Douglas was of the opinion, once he met with the lawyers, that he wasn't there to find out who did it. He was there to find out how likely it was that John was responsible.
Mm.
And I think to some extent, I think he's correct that John's not responsible.
Mm.
I don't think John killed John Bonet, or at least I don't think he delivered the blow that
would have been fatal.
Yeah, that made it so that she wasn't coming back. But he even says, and as I highlighted in the video, John Ramsay, you're either a very good liar or you're telling me the truth, something along those lines. And as we know from multiple police reports, John Ramsay lies.
Yeah.
I will say this again and again. The only thing in this case that even makes it remotely a question that the Ramsays did it is the DNA. As I've gotten further and further along into the case, there's just no other potentially responsible party unless you assume somebody else was allowed into the home that night, or that the injury happened between them leaving the Whites and arriving back at home. Because somebody did say in the comments something I had in the back of my mind, which was, what if whatever happened before they got home?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the story of what happened between them getting out of the car and going to bed changed, is because they realized that the version they had might not work for some reason and decided they needed to alter it slightly. But the thing is, when you look at the two stories that are told, they aren't minor differences.
Yeah.
It's John Bonet was asleep the entire time. I carried her upstairs and I put her to bed. And the other one is I read to both the kids before bed.
Also, the only time that it would have been able to have happened prior to them being home was on the car ride back from the Whites.
They did
right?
stop at two. They did say they stopped at two other houses.
Okay. Got it.
So one of the, and this is what I really hate. Going into it, I saw the stuff that was, well, what about North Fox Island? But there was a pedophile like pornography ring, and maybe it was an Epstein situation. I really hate to say it, but as far as the DNA goes, that might be the only thing that makes sense as to why there was foreign DNA. If the DNA is as foreign as has been repeatedly said. Again, I haven't had a chance to really dive into the DNA yet. By the time I do, it will probably be an entire episode on just the DNA testing.
Yeah. Well, in terms of things that we have covered that could use a second pass at the very least, there's a couple comments from the video this week that I want to get your opinion on in particular. The first one being, so we've finally officially covered the Burke interview.
Yeah, the first one.
The first one. So give me your thoughts on that, and then I have a follow-up question.
It was weird. I know a lot of people saying, oh, well, maybe he's on the spectrum, or maybe he's got some sort of other personality disorder that isn't sociopathy.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Sure, yeah, that's possible, but what I saw was sociopathy.
Now,
what Kohler saw was sociopathy. What Thomas saw was sociopathy.
Now, in terms of your personal understanding of sociopathy versus something other in the neurodivergent space, such as autism or Asperger's or other things like that, what are the key details from that interview that make you lean more specifically towards sociopathy? Now, I understand, obviously, we have Kohler and Thomas leaning that direction themselves, but speaking on your own behalf, what do you see?
What I saw wasn't a lack of understanding about what happened. Not like that it hadn't processed for him yet. To me, it was a lack of care.
Yeah, just total lack of empathy.
A lack of empathy. And I think the key moment for me was the way, and I don't know if you got this into the video from what he said as opposed to me quoting it, the way he answered the question of, how things changed, the way he said, my parents cry a lot, where it just sounded kind of like dismissive and like whatever, they're so embarrassing.
Yeah, I think I put that part.
Yeah, it didn't sound like him not understanding why they were crying. It sounded like him not having empathy.
Well, because he follows that up directly with, they cry a lot, whatever, but I'm just kind of moving on with my life, right?
Yeah, I'm just playing my Nintendo.
Yeah.
Kids with autism can have trouble reading other people's facial expressions. They can have trouble expressing their own emotions.
Yep.
They don't lack empathy entirely. And what I see in that interview, from the limited amount of it that we have access to, what I see in that interview is a complete lack of empathy. And then what got really weird is, I don't think, growing, again, having an autistic sibling, I don't see him saying, I know what happened, and then describing it in the way he did as being autistic. He almost seemed like proud of himself.
Yeah, there was what would have, to a mind without context of what he was talking about, you would think he was bragging.
Yeah. And to be fair, you can look at it the charitable way, which is maybe he had autism. But I think that that's not Occam's razor. I don't think that looking at that interview, the simplest explanation is that he's on the autism spectrum.
Might that have to do with the other element that he discussed where he did the hand motions?
Yeah.
You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Did you show that in the video?
I think I did.
Yeah. It's even more, because again, that whole little episode there, because he changes demeanor so much. He seems like distracted, kind of like just being a fidgety little 10-year-old kid.
Which is normal for a 10-year-old,
exactly,
but abnormal in this situation.
And then as soon as the question of, what do you think happened comes up, it's such a deliberate shift from being a little playful, it's still a little weird, but to, well, I know what happened. Shifts his position, gets into storyteller mode, and he's like, I think somebody tiptoed, like, got her, tiptoed down to the basement, took a knife. Like, total change in demeanor.
Yeah. Very similar to the element that he was putting on when talking about the interviewers looking for him
Yeah.
at school.
Yeah, like acting it out. It just, again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm very limited for me. I took psychology and sociology courses in high school, and I've read a lot. That's what I've got. I've also been in therapy for a lot of my life, for the exact opposite reason of, struggling to not have human connections. I get too intense about my human connections. The entire thing skeeved me out. And the way that he, again, like Bernhard, she said she didn't see sociopathy. She also had a reputation amongst police, according to Thomas, for being as charitable as possible during psych evaluations and not liking to take things to criminal proceedings, not wanting to testify. Which is probably why she ended up being the one that the Ramsays agreed to. She did, however, say that she wanted follow-up interviews. She did say that she thought something was deeply wrong here. Either that there was something wrong with him developmentally or that he had struggled with things. Again, I really recommend reading the books I've mentioned if you want to learn more about this case. But she talks about how she thought that something was wrong. There was something about his affect that bothered her. She felt that something probably wasn't right at home at the very least. No matter who you ask, everyone agreed something's not right with this kid.
I will say really quickly, just on that point, we did just get a good chat from Guinea Baby saying, I'm autistic and Burke is not. Also, it isn't that we can't read faces and emotions. At 41, at least for me, or at least at this point, I'm not. It's that I'm reading the person's true feelings and I'm not reading the mask.
Got it.
So that's...
Yeah, so and that's what I also wasn't trying to paint with a broad brush here.
Yeah.
Autism is a very varied disorder. Yes. My point was more like autism can manifest in certain ways.
Yes, but I think that's good. Yeah. A good indicator of where kind of the goalposts are is, this is a person with autism saying like, hey, I've been living with it for decades. To me, that's not what I see in Burke. And also like that's how far away from it is.
Also, like Burke wasn't masking anything at all.
No.
Just deeply unsettling interview.
Well, and the other thing is that, like, obviously we know from covering this case for 5 parts now, there really is no smoking gun here.
No.
But in the number of different parts that fall into place to leading to a conclusion about this case, this is a pretty big one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absent all the other details, this would just be weird.
Yes.
This is not absent all the other details.
Another detail I wanted to cover that I saw in the comments was specifically about the nanny.
Yeah.
Because, and I hadn't heard these things before, so I wanted to get from you. Or the housekeeper. I can't remember her name. What was her name again?
Oh God, why it was hyphenated. Linda Hoffman Pugh.
Yes, Linda Hoffman Pugh. So there were some people in the comments saying that their indication from things that they've seen about the case for the last couple decades led them to the conclusion of Linda Hoffman Pugh because there was a pad, a notepad, and like a pen that was similar to the Ramsays at their home. They had access to from some detail of being able to know what John Ramsay's bonus was, and because there had been the issue with the money that they had to lend, they may have been essentially trying to extort that out of them privately. Like that was the motive, that was the opportunity. So my question to you essentially was like, well, given that, and given the things that you've seen in the case so far, I know pretty early on you were against Linda Hoffman Pugh. So just kind of reiterating that for people.
The one thing of hers that I have not yet looked at is her deposition during one of the lawsuits that followed all of this. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to say to that commenter, I don't want to say like, no, Linda Hoffman Pugh is totally out, because there might be things that, like, for example, I think I responded to that person and said, well, where did you hear that she knew what the bonus amount was? Mm-hmm. Because as far as I'm aware, that wasn't John's bonus from that year. If I remember correctly, that was his 1995 bonus. I might be misremembering something there, but I believe it was his 1995 bonus. So Linda Hoffman Pugh, first of all, there's no reason for her need to extort anything. Patsy said yes. Like, she said, I'll give you the money. It's just going to be a loan, and you're going to have to pay it back. Which, again, not the Christian thing to do when you're pretending to be Christian. Like, that pisses me off. For one big thing here, the fact that she had the same notepad in her home doesn't matter. The ransom note definitively came from Patsy's notepad. That was the tears on the paper matched. There were other things in that notepad that were obviously Patsy, that Patsy acknowledged were hers later on. The ransom note was written on Patsy's notepad in the Ramsay home.
That night.
The pens ended up matching. The exact pen they had, that ink matched that line of pen that was in the Ramsay home. So even, maybe Linda Hoffman Pugh did have the same. Do you think she brought the pen but not the ransom note?
Unlikely.
That doesn't make sense to me. Also, the police ruled her out completely. They had no interest in her. Now, granted, she is one of the few people who would have had a key to the home and could have gotten in even if the doors were all locked. So she doesn't need to get in through the basement. But then again, everybody was pretty sure that whoever it was came in through the basement who was pro-intruder theory. Nobody suspected Linda Hoffman Pugh. And to be honest, she's not sophisticated enough. This crime was committed by somebody with more sophistication than Linda Hoffman Pugh. And I'm not saying that this is a particularly sophisticated crime. It is relatively sophisticated. Based on what I've read from this woman, she did not possess the intelligence.
I gotta say also, in terms of the sophistication element, one thing just came to mind is that the Burke John theory makes the most sense given the injuries sustained by JonBenet.
Yeah.
Because when you look at all of the other options for what happened that night, none of them so conclusively explain the head injury and the strangulation.
Yeah, that. Again, if it was kidnappers, why did they leave her in the home? Why did they hit her in the head and then strangle her? What was the thought process here? Was the note left before the crime was committed? Did somebody break into this home, spend 20 to 30 minutes, because remember, the Kohler team tested that in the documentary for CBS.
Yeah, the 2016 one,
Spend 20 to 30, I think the average time it took to write the note out was 23 minutes.
About that, yep.
And that was just writing it. That wasn't trying to perfectly copy it. That was just writing the exact same words that were used.
Yep.
Took 20 to 30 minutes, I think on average 23. Did they break into the home, spend 23 minutes writing that note out, then go upstairs, grab JonBenet, and again, as all of the testing suggested, and the fact that absolutely nobody could find a taser on the market that matched those marks, whereas the train tracks did. Which to me, I was thinking about it. I was like, why the train track marks? That's weird. Why are those there? Well, they might be there if Burke did something, she wasn't responding, and he was trying to wake her up.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you don't have siblings, so I don't know if you experienced with this with a cousin or anything, but growing up, everybody fights with their siblings. Might just, they're annoying you and you shove them and they fall over and they start crying and it's like, wait, no, don't cry. I'm sorry. I'll get you a cookie. Like, so you panic and you try to, don't tell mom. Like, this could have been a very extreme version of, oh my God, don't tell mom.
Yeah. Like,
come on, wake up. Like, that's what I see as a possibility there.
That to me is what makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I don't think Burke intentionally harmed her. At least not. I don't think it was premeditated.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there was an intent to kill.
No, but he did express in these interviews how, remember, he said he remembered her as being nice, but she bugged him sometimes. Bizarre. But he said that things bothered him, like the music when she played the Nintendo, when she would go, taking his stuff. Like, all of the things he said were like, she bothers me by getting involved in my life. It could have been something as simple as she grabbed a piece of his pineapple and he hit her in the head with a flashlight and then realized something's not right here. Like, I might have fucked up. Sorry. I might have fudged up. Yep. So that's where I see that going. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with this, though, because of the John Douglas angle, and Steve Thomas brings this up, and I think he's right to, and we'll get to this in the next episode when we get through the moment where he and Steve Thomas actually meet and have a conversation. In Douglas's book, he mentions how, to him, when he was told by the Ramsay lawyers that she was partially covered with a blanket, and he says this around the same time he's talking about how Thomas was wrong to say that this looked like familial staging, based on the book where he describes familial staging. And he goes, well, I didn't write an instruction manual. And I'm like, well, you kind of did. You wrote about a whole bunch of times it happened in explicit detail. And by saying that it's not convincing when you do it this way, you do tell somebody how to make it convincing. Because it's like, just don't do that. He says that the lawyers told him she was found partially covered by a blanket. And to him, that sounded more like an attempt to conceal. Which, first of all, why would you not conceal the entire body? Why would you lazily throw a blanket over half of it and shove it into a room? Also, why not take the body out with you? You know how you conceal the body? You don't leave it in the basement. Anyway, he's like, that doesn't seem like staging. Like, if it were staging, there would have been, like, maybe a pillow, or at the very least, she would have been totally covered. What the lawyers didn't tell him, and what maybe he didn't know when he was writing his book, but if he had read Thomas's book, which he clearly did, unless somebody else read Thomas's book and then was like, hey, look at this specific page about what Thomas said. If he read Thomas's book, he would know that she wasn't just found with a blanket. Somebody had laid her favorite pink dress next to her. An intruder wouldn't know that's her favorite pink dress. A family member would. Burke wouldn't care to place that there. John or Patsy would. In fact, Patsy specifically. I do think that one thing people brought up that that seems very important is that, by all accounts, Patsy paid a lot more attention to JonBenet. Patsy was kind of living vicariously through JonBenet. Patsy got into the pageant world at 13. She was behind, and she never managed to... I don't think she even took home Miss West Virginia. I think she was a runner-up for that. She never won Miss America, but JonBenet, she had a chance. I think it's also very interesting that you get a lot of these versions of the story. Patsy specifically says that JonBenet was the one who wanted to do pageants, but then most other people are like, JonBenet seemed pretty insecure because of the pageants and didn't love doing them.
Including Patsy's mother. Correct?
Yeah. Patsy's mother had to be like, even said that they had, on multiple occasions, she had to tell JonBenet, like, you need to do this. Like, you got to focus. Which, again, 6 years old.
I get that it was a different time, but I don't think I'll ever fully understand.
It wasn't that much of a different time.
Child pageantry, yeah.
I mean, it's child abuse. The specific things that they discuss here were just child abuse.
Yeah.
What's the Always Sunny episode where Frank runs a child beauty pageant?
This is where my knowledge of Always Sunny is.
Oh, if you think that's not going to be in one of these videos at some point,
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. There's an episode where Frank runs a child beauty pageant. So I feel bad for John Douglas. I think that the reason he has stood fast on the Ramsays not being responsible is that I think it's pride. I think it's his ego.
Well, it also, because the thing is essentially, in my view, he was used by the Ramsay lawyers, but if
he was a patsy.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is if he admits that now, his entire backlog gets brought into question.
His legacy is ruined.
Yes. And considering he's got multiple books and a Netflix series now based off of his work, for him to then say, I'm actually not too sure about that, then, I mean, there's too much at stake for him.
So I think he was trying to defend his position, and I don't know. Maybe he also knew that it was very unlikely anybody was ever going to prove it was the Ramsays. And also, if he said it was, he'd get sued.
Yeah, well, the only concern I have there is he could have essentially been inconclusive about it.
Yeah, true.
So it's not like.
Also, I want to remind people that now is the time to get in super chats if you have not yet.
Yes.
There have been a lot, so
yeah, and we're gonna try.
We're about to switch over because I think we've covered most of what I wanted to cover in terms of clarifications.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like he could have said, I think it's unlikely, but there's not enough information to be certain.
I haven't gotten to. I don't know that he ever said explicitly John Ramsay didn't, that like the Ramsays weren't involved.
Fair, but he did say
John Ramsay, I believe you, and he wrote that in the book. So I haven't gotten to the end of his bit on it yet. I'm going to be doing that next time. But yeah, it's the whole case is absolutely nuts. I am excited to have my own book. This will probably be the first book I ever publish. I'm going to need to do some revisions to the earlier chapters.
I'm excited to help you edit it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a wild ride getting through the rest of it, but I am very much energized about it now. And as long as these videos can do 150K in a month in views, I think we can stomach doing them. The problem was that they weren't hitting those numbers.
Yeah.
So if they start hitting those, if they can hit those numbers, we can do them once a month, and I can chug through this. Again, that's not us complaining. I will say it's very weird when people are like, why is it taking you so long to get through this? And I'm like, well, because we take a financial hit every time we do, and we have bills to pay, and we run a business, and and then they're like, well, then so it's all about the money for you then? And I'm like, well, no, the fact that we're doing it despite the financial hit would indicate that it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's just that we have both people and businesses.
People rely on us
on our income.
So it's really not about the money. If I could do this case every week until it's finished, I would. But if I did that, we'd go out of business, and then nobody would ever finish the case. Therein lies the problem. So that's, again,
choose your battle.
Not asking for money, just trying to explain to people why it's taking so long, because it keeps coming up.
And in terms of things that are going to take a long time, super chats would be a good time.
Yes.
To roll over to them. Gom gave us $5, telling us we do amazing work. Thank you, and helping to set the tone with seriousness tonight.
Yes, thank you.
It's a rare form for him, so appreciate it.
Yeah. Wow. I at first I was like, are you leaving something out there?
No, not really.
Was there an ussy somewhere in there?
No, believe it or not.
You know what, Gom? Which camera are we on?
That one now.
That one. I appreciate you, Gom. Thank you.
I also appreciate you, and I appreciate you for what you've been doing in compiling all the things that we said we would do that we still haven't yet.
I am gonna finish the stream, look at the Discord chat, and I will be Bigfoot or something again. So
it's we're getting there. Just give us time.
Yeah. Also, for anybody who has joined very recently who didn't hear the announcement earlier, we are prioritizing super chats that came in before 7:45. We will get through all of those, but if that takes us past 8:30, we will not get to anything that came in after. Just so people know, we're not asking you not to super chat. We just want to make sure you get your money's worth.
Good super chat from Shepard for $5 saying, "Did you guys hear about that kid in Arizona? Not new, totally explainable, and not at all weird missing 411 case from David Politis incoming."
Oh boy, no, I didn't hear about it. I don't know which one it is.
Could you either...
I can't really Google that kid from Arizona.
Yeah,
please give us the information.
Yeah, in either the email or the Discord.
Or leave a comment on the stream.
Yeah. Let us know what the full information is of that, because we will...
Yeah, or if you want to send it in right now, and one of the mods can probably highlight it for us.
If it's a super chat or something that comes in right now, I'll keep my eye out for it.
Yeah.
And then Gom followed it up... Gomp, I can't say that. No.
Oh God,
not that one. We'll look at that later.
Let me see what it was though.
You were doing so well.
I'm gonna see if Dr. Susan Bernhardted would be willing to talk to you. She'll give you a charitable diagnosis. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, more charitable than we would. Ghost Town Guy for $20, thank you very much, says, for the totally not cult ranch, I'll throw my hat in the ring to tend the cattle. Been around a lot of desert, I have to say. Have you considered Southeast Oregon? Also, Oregon frontier historian, happy to ramble about old surf. I will say, either Oregon or Washington would be great opportunities for that, because the majority of the states are really good cattle ranching, and like there's nobody there, very open spaces, very low population density, and then right over the mountains we got some really beautiful coastline. So it would work well for me. I know there are certain reasons it wouldn't work well for you.
I will not live in the same state as Portland.
Yeah. Fair.
Otherwise, I think Oregon and Washington are absolutely beautiful places, full of very good people.
Yes.
But the politics. I do not want to live in either of those places with the number of guns I have.
Valid.
Yeah.
Shepard followed it up with saying $5. Have you guys thought about doing a video on the OP Rock incident? I'd like to see your take on it, especially after the Kandahar Giant video.
I'm looking up OP Rock.
We will add it to the list. Gomb, you're spreading misinformation and hearsay and fake news in the chat for $5.03 for those who want to scroll back and read it.
That would be yeah, that's interesting. I can definitely take a look at that one, especially if we can find somebody who was there. What did he say? He's telling the truth.
Incredible. Also, JMO Preacher of the Milk gave us $100.
Good Lord, JMO.
I have to read this.
Thank you.
To reject the milk is to rebuff all that is good. I say unto those men that reject, the same that Prince Mike said unto the demon orange juice, while in dispute over the prophet Halav's body, dare not to bring against him a railing accusation, but saying, the milk rebuke thee. It was $100. I had to say it. I appreciate it. You broke him.
I don't even know what I need to read that myself. Okay, one more time.
You want to read it aloud, or?
To reject the milk is to rebuff all that is good. I say unto those men that reject, the same that Prince Mike said unto the demon orange juice, while in dispute over the prophet Halav's body, dared not bring against him a railing accusation, but saying, the milk rebuke thee. The reason I had to read it is because there's a non-zero chance that is just an adjusted Bible quote.
More than likely.
And I just don't know which one.
Gotta study up, I guess. So now you guys know, if even on a really serious topic, if you send us $100, we'll probably read whatever craziness you have. So thanks. We have people re-upping their memberships. We got Daniel Franklin Henry Jr. has been a member for 9 months. Kellen's back for 12 months. Official year. I know that you've been a member longer than that.
Yeah, way longer than that.
Appreciate it nonetheless. And Trains and Stuff, a member in 11 months. I believe you have been well. So sorry YouTube keeps messing with your membership numbers, but we appreciate you guys re-upping nonetheless.
Kinda lame.
Kinda lame. Shepard for $10 says, last one for me today. I want to read the original Arthurian legends, the Welsh ones, not the English versions, and definitely not the French ones. Any recommendations? Also, bathe in le milk.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Tristan and Isolde is a good one. I think Gawain and the Green Knight is later. Igodovin is a good starting point that mentions Arthur. It's the oldest mention of Arthur as far as I'm aware, but he's not a central character. Nennius also writes about Arthur. Those are, of course, more historical mentions. I'm trying to remember what the older Welsh ones are, though. It's going to drive me insane. There's one specifically about Kay. Yeah, let me look these up really quick.
Real quick, while you do that, Shepard did send a follow-up about the case that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
There's no name, but he said the kid wandered away from his house, walked 7 miles overnight through some really rough terrain filled with 2 mountain lions and a bear, was found by a livestock dog, and the dog brought the kid back to the house.
All right, interesting.
So may have gotten just lost.
Yeah, it depends on how far away he got, I guess.
Yeah, 7 miles was the trek. I don't know if that was the...
Oh, here we go. Perfect. I was able to find a book for you to recommend. Arthur and the Celtic Languages, The Arthurian Legend in Celtic Literatures and Traditions by Caradwyn Lloyd Morgan, Eric Popp, and John K. Ballard. That would be my recommendation for a place to start. As for Welsh legend in general, the Mabinogion is really good, but also don't skip on Geoffrey of Monmouth and Le Morte d'Arthur and all of those. They're good too. It's just also Bernard Cornwell has an Arthur series, Enemy of God. It's really good. I have not made my way all the way through it, but he's the guy who did The Last Kingdom. So he writes historical fiction with a heavy emphasis on the historical. So he would be a great one, too, for a modern take on it. It's been so long since I took my Arthurian Legends course, I just can't remember all of the titles off the top of my head. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, Tristan and Isolde. A lot of the early ones don't have Arthur as a central character. He is kind of a vector by which other stories are told.
Got it. That makes sense.
But the historical stuff, too. Nennius's Historia Britannicum has probably some of the best early Arthur information.
Cool. Daniel Franklin Henry Jr. for $5 says, an interesting legend from where I grew up in Northwest Florida is the legend of Tate's Hell. Another one to add to the list.
The legend of Tate's Hell.
As you look into that really quickly, A7XM Shadows 19 for $10 says, happy belated Easter to the boys from the other side of the mountain. I'm an Ohioan. I hear a certain seat has opened up to the, I believe that says baptized man of the faith. So may we expect a Pope Mattis anytime soon?
I'm not eligible. I'm not Catholic.
True. If you converted, would you be able to?
Yeah, any baptized Catholic male can become pope. I think even technically married then could be elected pope.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Can you be married and then become a Catholic and then become a priest and keep your marriage?
I'm actually I think there is a way to do it, but your marriage cannot remain
a marriage
intact.
So
like in the
like annulled.
I don't think it's an annulment or a divorce, but I'm pretty sure that you have to like physically separate from your wife.
Got it.
If I understand correctly.
That would be wild.
I'm going to look that up.
Next is from 31GG Not Russian Productions for $50. And that's it. Oh, there is a comment on it, I think. Oh no, I can't read it. I can't read the reply.
So there are exceptions for it. Under certain circumstances, a priest might be married. Let's see. It's a very Catholic article on it.
Makes sense. Trains and stuff is getting a milking machine for cows so that we will never run out of milk. Just so you know.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Dairy's important.
I was going to hire milkmaids just to stimulate the economy.
There's a joke there that I'm not making. The Rude Canadian for Canadian $2.22. Love the specificity. Says money for the Pope Fund. Apparently we're
becoming popes.
We're kickstarting our hearts to become popes.
Right. Here it is. In recent years, that it would not be the first time. There were 3 at one point. In recent years, however, the Latin Church has allowed more married men to be ordained priests according to specific cultural circumstances. For example, a married Protestant minister who converts to the Catholic Church can, with special permission from the Holy See, be admitted to the Catholic priesthood. Because they are already familiar with balancing ministerial demands with the demands of their marriage and are culturally prepared to take on the responsibilities of being a married Catholic priest. This is often the case in the ordinariates established by Benedict XVI for Anglicans who wish to join the church. Apparently is primarily where it started. I guess it probably works for Lutherans as well. But you cannot be a priest and get married. You have to be married before you become a priest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Orthodox, it works much the same way, but there is no ban on marriage for people who wish to become priests. You can get married and then become a priest without there being any special circumstance. You just can't be a priest and then get married.
Got it.
In the Anglican Church, there's no ban on it whatsoever,
Interesting.
as far as I understand.
Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, the origin of they have all sorts of theological arguments for it in the Catholic Church. The origin of priestly celibacy in the Catholic Church is nepotism. They didn't want priests elevating their own children into the priesthood, nor did they want bishoprics that held land getting passed down to sons who were not priests and therefore passing out of control of the church. So it was more an issue of feudalism than anything.
I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Which, when you look at the history of the Orthodox Church, it kind of makes sense, because the Orthodox Church up until the 1450s was
that a voluntary thing, or was that something that like lords and kings would essentially have pressed for, like, as a requirement?
There was a whole controversy over it.
I would
the
imagine.
Investiture controversy. There was a big fight between the Holy Roman Empire and the Vatican over who got to decide who was in charge of a bishopric.
I was going to say, because like I would imagine the reason that it occurred is because those who had land and power did not want the church getting more.
Yeah, the church basically was like, hey, our bishops need land to provide for, because of the way the feudal system worked.
Yeah.
They were like, our bishops need lands to provide for their bishopric, and to make sure that they have the money and the resources to do their work, so they need to be landed. And at the time, part of the feudal system, bishops would go to war.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would command armies. So
that would be a wild alternate history if they had allowed, like, doing an alternate history where priests were allowed to marry and reproduce.
They were up until like the 800s.
But more specifically, like, if that perpetuated into like later in the medieval period.
Yeah.
And it grew to the point where essentially you had religious kingdoms.
You would have.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, that would be really interesting.
It would be, yeah.
Alternate universe, like, or history to kind of explore.
It's very, one of the most interesting things about Western European history after the fall of Rome is the way in which the Roman Empire did not die. It became the church.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not that the church killed the empire or that there was a coordinated, reconfiguration of power. It was that the church recognized Rome provided order. And so they tried to emulate Rome in as many ways as possible, so that just as with the Roman Empire, you had imperial provinces and senatorial provinces, you had church bishoprics and feudal fiefs.
Mm.
So it continues on, and it just kind of changes from being the empire and the Senate, or the emperor and the Senate, to the Pope and the kings.
Mm.
But it definitely wasn't, it was not Rome.
Yeah.
In the same sense. It wasn't like a bunch of families just coordinated renaming everything like certain people who believe in a certain tartar sauce world would like it to be.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Next is for $2, says, hello boys, a fine day to lodge some lore.
Lodge my lore, puppy. Also, I'm going to go grab that Fiji, which may or may not have microplastics after sitting in here all week, but I'm so thirsty.
Yeah, fair enough.
Snake. I don't think one water bottle's worth of microplastics will do me.
Let's be fair. We've had enough in our lives already where it almost certainly will not be enough to do you in further than anything else you've already previously consumed.
My one concern is that it feels slightly bloated.
Yeah, that happens. That's just from it, A, sitting in the heat, and B, any of the dissolved oxygen and carbon dioxide that was within it releasing. So, you're fine.
True.
Anyway.
If I die, you know what happened.
Exactly. Snakebite Sam for $5 says, when, and it is a matter of when, not if, I become an eccentric crypto billionaire, I will happily use my vast fortune to bankroll your videos, Aitons.
Thank you. And then we can be then we can be eccentric cryptid millionaires.
Yes, and we'll be very excited, and we'll redivert some of the funds that you give us to make movies and books and all that fun stuff.
And genetic engineering. Bigfoot may not exist now, but he will.
That's actually next after the Direwolf Project.
Yes.
Chip with a hand grenade for $4.99 says, holy water equals Pope milk, and how do you feel about that statement existing?
I'm going to let the Catholics handle that one.
I'm not going to handle that one. We have Catholics we know that we can let handle that one.
Yeah.
Shepard, back again for $10, says, I lied. This is the last one. It wasn't, because you followed it up later. Really loved watching you shred people on TikTok who were claiming that Easter was pagan, you providing sources, and them going, nuh-uh. It was amazing.
Somebody told me Passover isn't Jewish. Mm-hmm.
Really?
But by far my favorite was the people who saw Easter isn't pagan as like a big sticker on the screen and then proceeded to comment something which I directly refuted in the video using sources.
I will say the amount
like they did not watch the whole video before replying.
The amount of comments that I see on social posts where it is blatantly clear that they didn't watch any of a video that they're commenting on is wild.
Yeah. It's the headline effect.
That's the thing. It's like, I know we live in the headline era, but like, good Lord, people.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, I saw it more this year than ever before, the whole Easter is pagan thing. What I didn't know until recently is that's literally Nazi propaganda.
Oh?
Oh, yeah. It was something the Nazis came up with in order to undermine the Catholic Church.
Incredible. Of course it was.
Yeah. So they were like, well, didn't you know that actually Easter is based on a pagan goddess? One of my other favorites is the people who are like, actually Easter is based off of a Germanic goddess, and then they give the same argument that people who say that Easter is based off of Ishtar, a Mesopotamian goddess, give. And like there's even people who are like, Christians who are like, no, Easter isn't pagan. Yeah, we did get the bunnies and the eggs from like the celebration of Estra, but that's it. No, not even that. The eggs come from Lent because people would abstain from animal products during Lent and then hard boil the eggs at the end and then eat them as part of the Lenten feast. Or in the case of in 1290, Edward Longshanks was like, it'd be fun, decorated eggs. Give me 450 of them, which probably means that the practice had originated slightly earlier, but that's just the first documented version. 1290 AD. Bede was writing in the 700s that there used to be a festival. Used to be. In the 700s.
And there's no further description of what the festival involved.
The time between Edward Longshanks ordering some eggs and Bede saying there used to be a festival is longer than the amount of time the United States has been settled by Western Europeans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The time between the death of Augustus Caesar and the fall of Rome is shorter than the time between Edward Longshanks ordering decorated eggs and Bede saying there used to be a festival.
And to clarify, beyond him saying there used to be a festival, what detail is there?
None. Also, the other thing is, it's not even that Easter, like the Easter holiday is named after this goddess. The Easter holiday is named after the month of Eostermonat, which is named after the goddess. There was no point at which Easter was named after the goddess. Easter was named after a month that was named after a goddess. There's still a degree of separation here. And everyone else in the world calls it Pascha.
Passover.
Yeah. Which is why the Ishtar argument makes no sense. They're like, Easter, Ishtar, obviously. It's like, I can do word association too. But no, these people call the goddess Ishtar. These people called the holiday Pascha, and these people called it Easter. These people and these people didn't know the other existed.
Really?
I mean, there might have been a few individuals who did, but the vast majority of people living in England in the 700s didn't know Ishtar ever existed. That's the other thing. People tend to have this idea that, like, throughout history, everyone has known as much about other cultures as we did now.
Oh, yeah.
There are long periods of time where entire cultures were lost to history. And we only, like, the Hittites are mentioned in the Bible.
Mhm.
Up until the 1800s, people thought the Hittites were just a tribe of Canaanites. It took until like the 1830s for archaeologists to go, oh, wait a minute. There was an entire civilization here that we didn't realize existed.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yep. So, gotta remember that people didn't know things.
Yeah. They didn't have the means of knowing things that we do now.
Yeah. I mean, Ishtar was as foreign to the Anglo-Saxons as the Native Americans were to the Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah.
They didn't know.
Fair. Francie Veshnov for $5 says, this is a good one considering we're talking about history right now. If you could go back in time and observe but not interfere with one historical event, when and where would you go?
I will say the resurrection and the immediate aftermath probably would be a big one, because I would like to be able to go and see that.
Yeah.
Just,
Would you beat John to the tomb, though?
I am definitely faster than John. John did not run a 4.8. John did not run an 11.2 second 100-meter dash.
I believe it.
I'm bringing Nikes, like some nice modern Nikes, and I am beating that man to the tomb.
Incredible.
You'll have no idea how fast I can run. Also, they're running through the streets. I'm doing parkour. It's no contest. But another one, I think I'd be interested to see D-Day.
Yeah.
Or Lexington and Concord. Those would all be up there.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, obviously the battle for the Serapis is up there. I think the battle on the Nile, I think, would be up there. Yeah, I was trying to think, like, considering we grew up here, I grew up in Valley Forge, being at least even for like a period of time in Valley Forge at that time, and just seeing like the conditions they had to deal with and how they were making it through. I don't know. Honestly, there were a number of things that came to mind, so it's hard to narrow down.
I'd like to go see the battle from, I can't remember which battle it is, but the one from the climax of The Patriot. Because I bet it would be just like how it happened in Mel Gibson's movie.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Mel Gibson makes the most accurate historical films of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, The Patriot is actually a documentary.
So is Braveheart.
Yeah. Even Passion of the Christ.
Yes.
Just how it happened.
Incredible.
I have a friend who's a history teacher in New York, and every once in a while I'll be like, "Have you told your kids that The Patriot is historically accurate yet?" And she'll be like, "Aiden, I'm gonna kill you."
That's great.
I'm like, I can reach more children than you can. That sounded worse than it was. That's chimp, don't you dare.
Oh,
it's going to end up in another one of the compilations.
Yes, it is.
I can reach more children than you can.
You made it worse.
I know.
Incredible. Gom for 504, love the specificity, good sir, says, speaking of the Pope, we are now 2 for 2 with controversial political figures meeting elderly figureheads and then immediately passing afterwards.
Wait, who was the other one?
I don't know.
Dalai Lama, maybe?
Queen?
The Queen? I don't know.
Who met with the Queen?
I don't know. Her passing didn't bother me much.
That's fair. Chat, find this answer. Wizard's Workshop with a wild username and $20 says, if Mattis and Thornbury were invited to be part of epic rap battles of history, who would you two want to portray against each other, and who would you want to portray together against Wendigoon and Meat Canyon? The thing that jumps to mind thematically would be Lee and Grant.
Oh, yeah. Lee. I would want to do Lee and Grant.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be fun for you and me.
Because really anything modern history, I'm cooked.
Yeah. No, Lee and Grant would be fun. Jefferson and Madison would be fun.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin and George Washington versus King George, and who was the commanding officer in the Americas?
This was one of the things in the Patriot they did get right.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like there was an A?
Howe? Was it Howe?
Maybe General Howe.
Thought it was General Howe. It's the right time period.
Yeah, Commander-in-Chief of the British Land Forces in the colonies during the American War of Independence. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Us as Americans, them as
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we would be forced into the British.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. No. MacArthur and whoever would go with MacArthur against, I don't know, FDR or something like that.
MacArthur and Truman versus Kim Il Sung, was that it?
Yes.
And Mao Zedong.
Yeah. Actually, no. It would be Hitler and Goebbels versus Mao Zedong and Stalin.
What an odd pairing.
Just specifically like who them bragging essentially of how who was better at being worse.
Yeah, Churchill and Roosevelt versus Mussolini and Hitler.
Yeah.
That would go hard.
That'd be a good one.
Not that I want to be Mussolini or Hitler in that. It just I feel like it would be a hard rap battle. It would go hard.
What about Margaret Thatcher versus everyone else?
Margaret Thatcher wins. I just feel like Margaret Thatcher could have dropped a heinous couple of bars there.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think they had one with Thatcher.
Probably. Wasn't there one that was wasn't it like Trump versus Clinton and then Abraham Lincoln got involved?
I think so. Like Trump versus Clinton or Biden?
Has epic rap battles of history still been a thing?
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Trump and Clinton.
That's an interesting pairing.
Might have been Trump and Obama.
That makes more sense.
I can't remember. It was a while ago. It was almost 10 years ago now.
That's fair. I did a deep dive back on them again like a year and a half ago.
Dude, when I was at Camp Jam in 2015 and the debates had just started, we had a band there that was named Donald Trump's Immigration Plan.
Oh my god.
And they played The Wall.
Oh my god.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
No. Incredible. Sleepy Nocturne for $10 says, "Hey lads, for the future ranch documentary, quote unquote, would you prefer the lore of the lodge or of Wendussy and Milk?"
Lore of the Lodge.
Yeah, lore of the lodge for sure. I don't know why it took me 3 times to read that though, but
You're having a stroke. I'm not talking about what you're doing under the table. What?
incredible. The White Trash Panda for $5 says, "You keep missing the Bible I sent you. It's not just the Message remix."
That's the only one we got.
Yeah, I don't know.
What other one did you send? That's the only one that came.
What means of sending it are you using?
People keep trying to send us stuff and it doesn't get here.
Make sure it doesn't
Which is
require a
annoying.
signature.
Which is annoying because we do get stuff from all the previous tenants, but we don't get stuff that's actually sent to us.
Yeah, it is kind of nuts. Carmen Rider Decade for $4.99. Oh, Kamen Rider Decade for $4.99 says, "I need more Viking stuff." Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments about.
I would love to do more Viking stuff. Unfortunately, YouTube said no.
Also, like, what else would there be to cover?
Oh, there's a lot of Viking stuff that happened.
Well, like, in America or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay, yeah.
Like I would love to cover the story of the colonization of Iceland, or there was a lot of Viking stuff. What else we got?
Hang on. Currently working on that. There's one in particular coming in that I have to do a small bit of research for.
Okay.
And our internet is not being rapid
Can you
enough.
tell me what to look up? I might be able to do it faster.
It's all good. I'm almost there.
So happy for you.
Thank you. Okay, right. Site. Okay, so the question was, come on, computer. This thing is so slow. Echo Warrior for $100 This is why I had to do a little research
Okay.
to make sure I was properly informed for $100.
Thank you. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, thank you very much. Saying, Thornbury, I know you are familiar with the Jackdaw from Black Flag. Are you also familiar with the Aquila from AC3? It is also a brig that can be upgraded. If both ships are fully upgraded, which wins in a fight? And from what I'm seeing about the Aquila,
Oh, okay.
So the Jackdaw has 4 swivels and 46 broadsides, but the Aquila has 6 swivels and 60 broadsides, and it looks like it's a full 2-decker.
It is. Just time period wise, to be fair, it depends on the captain.
Yes.
And the crew.
Yeah, I mean, Master and Commander Far Side of the World does a very good indication of that. I think
John Paul Jones on the Jackdaw can beat most people on the Aquila.
Yes, but Nelson on the Aquila versus
pound for pound, the Aquila is the better ship.
Yes,
but again, it depends on who's commanding each
if
ship.
We're talking just the ships alone, pound for pound, the Aquila is better.
Ooh, that'll be a good Nelson versus Jones.
That would be a good one. That would be a really good one.
That would be an interesting. I want. We should do that for Unhinged.
Because oh yeah, I'm so down for that. Because that's the thing is they both had not too dissimilar fighting styles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one had a lot more to work with.
Yeah, and one was a crazy Scotsman.
Yes. That is interesting though, because despite the fact that Jones had all the things that against him,
mm-hmm.
and so little in the way of what he could do with it.
Yeah.
The amount of things he accomplished.
It's crazy.
Like, if you
Very impressive, man.
You'd have to wonder what he would have done if they existed in the same time frame.
How far apart were they?
Jones was Revolution, and then Nelson not far at all, because Nelson primarily was the leader in the Napoleonic Wars.
So theoretically, they could have. I don't know if they did live at the same time, but
they may have been alive at the same time. But I don't think if Nelson was alive, he would have been either a midshipman or maybe a lieutenant. So I don't think he would have been in a command position enough.
It's Horatio Nelson, right?
Yes. I could be wrong on that, but
he was only 10 years younger than Jones.
When was he born?
He only died 8 years later.
Yeah.
They lived at the same time. He was Horatio Nelson was September 29th, 1758, and John Paul Jones was July 6th, 1747. He died not 7 years apart. He died July 18th, 1792, and Horatio Nelson died in 1805.
I don't think he would have been in a position of commanding a ship, though, at the time that Jones was.
Probably not. He would have been in his 20s.
Yeah, because that's the thing, and that's why I said either midshipman or lieutenant, because
I just didn't realize they lived so close together.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense to me, but I don't think if he ever encountered Jones, he wasn't the one calling the shots.
No.
But yeah, that would be a really interesting.
Because you really could line up they're fighting at basically the same technology level.
Yes, 100%.
Both were fighting in the British style.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an interesting
That'd be really
comparison for History Unhinged.
If you did, well, that's the thing is if you really want to go captain versus captain rather than ship versus ship,
mm-hmm.
if you put up the Bonham Richard and the 2 other ships that he had with him when he took the Serapis,
mm-hmm.
but you replaced the Serapis and its little party with HMS Victory and a few ships of the line, I mean, Jones barely got out with the Serapis, so you got to wonder what he might have pulled with that. I don't know. It's worth a deep dive. We're gonna have to look into this. So thank you for that. Anyway, Tally Turtle for $2 says, any update on Sebastian Rogers?
I did not know that Nelson died at the Battle of Trafalgar.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, so Tally Turtle's asking, any update on Sebastian Rogers?
Not as of now.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've just been focusing on other things, and there really hasn't been
it's also there just hasn't really nothing directly related to the fact that the kid is missing has happened.
Yeah.
Um,
It's plenty of drama, but that's not worth
Yeah.
talking about.
and that's the thing is we're not interested in covering the drama about it. I only care about if something new happens in the case.
Yeah.
I do think the walls are probably closing in on Chris and Katie, but
I would imagine.
yeah, Steve Fisher is no longer on the case. That's probably the biggest update.
Really?
Yeah, he
I didn't even know that.
yeah, he's no longer working with the Proudfoots.
Did he say why?
He has me blocked on Twitter, so I don't think so. I don't think I've seen it if he has.
Fair.
Yeah, at least that's my understanding is he's no longer working with the Proudfoots. He might still be involved,
Mhm.
but I don't think he's working for them anymore.
One,
Chris has come out of the woodwork and is now talking on podcasts again, and it seems to very much enjoy the attention. But
do we want to give him any?
I mean, he has the standing invitation to come on, but he's a cowardly little pussy, so he won't.
Does John Ramsey also have an invitation to come on?
I mean, if he wants to, I would have John Ramsey on.
If he showed up, I think he'd last 5 minutes.
Probably.
I think Chris would last 3. Anyway,
That's probably what Chris is used to lasting.
Elena de Howler, Werewolf Queen for Sarah for $9.99.
All I'm saying is you don't have 4 marriages collapse when you're good in the sack.
Incredible. Chimp, clip that and send it to Chris and see if he comes on the show. Number 1, Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Same to you. Number 2, glad you're back on this case.
Oh, yeah, me too.
As are we.
I don't want to say I enjoyed getting back to it, but I felt reinvigorated getting back to it.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3, do you feel that the truth about who did it and why can or will come out?
Yeah. I don't know that it could ever be proven in a court of law. But just as we all acknowledge now that OJ did it, I think we can get to that point culturally where we accept the reality of the situation and it is unassailable. It just can't be proven in court because of the standards we have for justice, which is a good thing in the end. I think it's good that our justice system is so heavily skewed towards innocence.
Yeah.
Because I think it was either Payne or Franklin, I think, who was of the opinion that it's better that 1 guilty man go free, or that 10 guilty men go free than that 1 innocent man is wrongfully imprisoned.
Yeah. And I think that's a good mentality to have because generally a guilty man will sin again if you're going to look at it from that perspective. So if you don't get him that time, you're most likely to get him again. So yeah, that's... Man, that good old document is really wonderful.
There's a reason it's still here.
Yeah, there really is. And then the last one from Elena is, Mom, Emerald Queen, emailed you a subject, have you seen this mystery? I
haven't seen this email, but I will look for it now.
We have acquired an intern finally, at least for a short period of time. So we're going to have her starting to help us with going through certain elements of things like that. So thank you.
We saw her just the other night.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. I gave her advice on where she could drink without presenting an ID. Not because she's underage, but because she forgot her ID.
Yes. And I was requesting recommendations from her father about where to get good deals on equipment.
You were.
Next is, for $9.99, says, have you ever considered doing a series of YouTube shorts about the fearsome critters of the lumberwoods?
Ooh.
I'm not even familiar with that. What is that?
That could actually be fun. It's stuff like the squonk.
Also, yeah,
I guess the hide behind.
A fun thing could be doing shorts/TikToks on things that aren't good enough for a full video.
But there's just not enough information.
Yeah, it could be a good way to cover it. Hobo Sam 21 for $11.70.
What a name!
Specificity says, why would someone not report an abandoned car? Because it could bring unnecessary tow bills and charges. I leave empty cars be. Could we have video clips? Volume. Last episode's interview, Match Aiden's. Yeah. Video clips volume? I don't remember playing a video. I understand what you're saying, but I don't recall what
in the video, probably the stuff where Burke was talking versus when I was talking.
I did match it.
I don't know. Check and see if YouTube has the volume leveling on your computer. Because they added a setting where YouTube tries to do like audio stability or something, which really I think the idea is to fix that, but sometimes it doesn't fix that.
Yeah, I intentionally edited the audio because it was too low initially, so I had to bump it up to match where your levels were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine on our end.
Sometimes the way it plays on YouTube versus the way that we actually edited and exported the video is different for some reason.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't see how I don't think you're on the hook for tow bills if you report an abandoned car.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, you're not on the hook for tow bills.
Yeah.
The owner of the car is.
Yeah.
Like, they have the registration based on the license plate.
Yeah. They're not going to charge you for being a,
They
good
can't.
citizen.
It's not your car.
Yeah.
You didn't leave it there. You just reported it.
Yeah. If that's happened to you, go talk to someone about
Yeah, if
that.
you got charged for a car you reported as abandoned, then that's somebody screwed something up.
Yeah. Richard Davidson for Canadians 699 says, have you had an opportunity to look into the Marshall Isaac, is it Isaac case maybe? ISAASA?
Marshall, it's probably the Marshall Iwasa case.
Yeah.
I have not yet. I've been meaning to get to it, though.
Cool. Alyssa, forgive me if I mispronounce this name, but Alyssa Jakilek for $2 says, I'm from Charlevoix,
Charlevoix, I guess.
I can tell stuff about the area. Cool.
Yeah, that's the spot where the Ramsays had their vacation home. Yeah, we might have some questions then.
Yeah, 100%. Levi V for $10 says, might be Levi 5. Longtime viewer, first time catching a live. Absolutely love everything you guys do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Make the 12-hour shifts go by fast, but now I'm out of content. Milk the squonk.
I was prepared for every single part of that but the last 3 words.
Yep. Well, we appreciate the fact that you've officially caught up on everything that we've ever done. I'm amazed.
Have you seen History Unhinged?
Check that out. If you like these 2 yappers, imagine a third yapper
who has a voice of very similar timbre.
Yes,
but in fact, it's a little difficult to tell him and I apart when you listen on audio only.
But sometimes he does.
His voice is a little more gruff.
Yeah, he does have a tendency to sound like the modern Marvels guy from History Channel.
That's true.
Which is not a bad thing in my opinion. That's a compliment.
What we should do is we should use voice alteration AI to make me sound like Master Chief.
No. We should use voice alteration AI to make us all sound like the same person, just to make it really confusing when people are watching.
That too. I guess. I was thinking of like a good thing to say as Master Chief, so I kind of zoned out for a second. Like,
just a good thing to say as Master Chief
for History Unhinged, like what's a good quote I have from that show? Like, my theory is I forgot my theory.
Yes,
it's like the Halo announcer voice, Well,
I was just editing some of that today actually for episode 7, which will be out this Saturday.
Did I say anything out of pocket?
This is the one where we started talking about. What did we start talking about?
Hitler.
No, that was the last one. We started talking in this one about some random subject. Oh, it was the morning after Gabby lost her ring.
Right.
So we started talking about that. And then we started talking about Rome. And then we never stopped talking about Rome.
It's just so easy.
This is the one where I showed them how little I knew about Rome because of how little we covered it in my school. Do you remember how much I said we talked about Rome in my high school?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them?
Wasn't it like a few weeks?
We spent half of a semester freshman year talking about pre-modern history. The rest of my high school experience was the Renaissance forward.
After learning that you, in fact, had not read the Constitution until a month ago, that does not surprise me.
Yeah, we never read it in school.
Deeply disappointing. Anyway,
moving on.
We have so very many of these.
We do. Scrap King Carson for $1.99 says Vance kills Pope. Pope killed H.W. Bush, whom got JFK.
Sure. I'll take it. Technically, they could select J.D. Vance as Pope.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Pope Vance.
Pope Snance.
They don't get that reference.
Can you pay me in advance?
Okay.
Snance. Do you get that reference? One of you does. I know you do.
You need Vyvanse.
No, I just need to dance. You don't know it, but I'm dancing to the Six Flags theme. Anyway, Bree for $4.99 says, hey, if you could check out the case of Randy Sellers, he was a teen who went missing after a ride home from cops from the county fair 5 miles from me. Definitely worth checking out.
Randy Sellers.
Kat just said, what, so like he killed the Pope in battle and gets a big hat?
It should work that way, honestly.
Right?
Look, Ezio killed the Pope, and that went well. You gotta play Assassin's Creed.
Oh, I know that's what you were referencing.
Like the OG ones.
Yeah.
I saw somebody do a ranking of those games that had Brotherhood near the bottom, and I wanted to know that person's address.
Incredible.
Easily one of the best games.
Arbor Irrigation Installer for 556, nice, says, I'm a defense contractor and just got laid off for the third time in 12 months. God is still good and Doge is still based. Y'all need an electronic engineer? That was
a lot.
That was a wild message.
I guess if you're a defense contractor who keeps getting laid off, that's a good thing for the World War III fears.
Yeah. What does an electronics engineer do, per se, that would be relevant to us?
I would think they probably engineer electronics.
Right, but like...
I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, sure.
Send us a resume at thelorelodge@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Griff for $10 says, I think I yeehaw pilled my cousin. I gave him a cowboy hat and book about Teddy Roosevelt for Christmas. Now he's asking his dad for a 30-30. What's your favorite story about Teddy Roosevelt? I will say, I feel like I'm not allowed to buy myself a real cowboy hat until I have officially assisted on a ranch during calving season.
That's fair.
I feel like I'm not allowed to. I'll wear the boots under like jeans, but I feel like I can't buy a real cowboy hat.
I would argue that if you are exploring the Old West on horseback, that's also okay.
That's valid. If you're like off trail,
yeah,
with like yourself or a small group.
If you're wearing it for some utilitarian purpose, like if there is utility to you wearing the cowboy hat, it's acceptable.
Yeah,
doing it just for fashion's sake,
like if you can say to somebody when they ask you why are you wearing a cowboy hat, you're not even from the South, and
if you have a valid answer,
if you say I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, you're allowed. I think.
Yeah.
As
the horse's name was Friday.
Yes. In terms of favorite Teddy Roosevelt stories, his relationship with his daughter, I think, was hilarious. Aside from anything he did politically, which was just that she was like extremely like very feminist for the time, and
thought women should be able to show their ankles, maybe vote.
Yes, exactly. And she was very big into suffrage and things like that. And everyone was pissed. They were like, "How can you let her like do what she's doing and like be her own woman or whatever?" And he just like would look at his cabinet and other people, because she'd end up in the newspapers all the time, and he was just like, "Even God cannot control her will." And he was just like, and like with pride, he's like, "There's nothing that can stop her."
Yeah,
just like the proudest father of a daughter ever. So love that for Teddy and his daughter.
Mine's the charge up San Juan Hill.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just like, damn their defenses. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like just a dude in flannel running up a hill with a gun.
He was the Nelson of the land.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like Deputy Secretary of the Navy and he resigned to go be a lieutenant colonel?
Wouldn't be shocked.
I think that was the story there.
Wouldn't be shocked. V. Taylor for $4.99 says, thoughts about the convicted pedo who admitted to it with details not released more than once, only dismissed by inconclusive DNA and fled the country.
Huh?
I don't know who you're.
I don't know. Is there a specific one?
Yeah, I feel like that's a multiple choice list, not necessarily a short answer there.
I mean, I don't think it's good.
No, I think that's bad. I think they should be extradited and brought back to face charges. Yeah, I don't know.
I also got curious about what weapons would have been used during the Spanish-American War.
Probably still would have been flintlocks.
Oh, the Remington had a sexy revolver. The model 1875 single action army. That's a sexy looking revolver right there.
Yep.
In 4440. Interesting.
Yeah, the single action armies are nice.
Oh, I might need to get myself.
I mean, that was the cowboy gun.
What, the Remington?
The single action army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might need to get myself a model 1890.
Let me see it.
Oh, that's pretty.
Mm.
Like that is, and I love Remington. That's so pretty. Oh.
JMO, I can't read that, but thank you.
It's
Jacket has been a member for 12 months.
JMO? He said, "Call me Caesar, the way I get penetrated by a gang of men."
We didn't have to say.
We didn't have to, but I wanted to.
You did. Fair enough. Jacket, who's
Quite frankly, I wanted to.
fair enough, who's been a member for 12 months, thank you, says, a year of luring, let's go.
Woo!
I've mentioned this before, but the Colonial Parkway murders from Virginia need more attention. Can you write those down?
Colonial? What was it?
Colonial Parkway murders from Virginia.
Colonial Parkway.
JMO, but it's funny. It is funny, but sometimes not appropriate.
No, the Colonial Parkway murders.
Correct.
Okay.
Elena says, more book money. P.S. Treat the team to some goodies on me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll do. We kind of did that on Saturday, so you're helping recoup from that.
Ooh, Colt. I did not know Colt made lever actions back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
They got some pretty ones.
Yeah, 100%. Andrew Tabbery for $30, thank you very much, says, funds for everyone up Lauren their lodge till they missing 411.
What a series of words you just used.
Isn't it incredible? On a more serious note, you should try looking into the case of Barbara Louise Cotton. It's a missing person case from my current stomping grounds in Nodak.
Interesting.
Is that North Dakota, I'd imagine?
I think so.
You want to write that down?
What was the exact terminology again?
Barbara Louise Cotton.
Louise Cotton?
Yes.
All right.
JMO, another one, says, call me a whistleblower for the way I want to redacted myself.
Oh, no.
That's, man, you're really just like hitting us over the head with it, aren't you?
Damn, dude. I'm looking at the weapons used in the Spanish-American War. They were some pretty guns.
I believe it.
Oh, God, they're all so nice. I want one.
I want to get the Colt single action arm, and I also want to get the Colt Thunderer. It's a really unique pistol. It's in 41.
Look at the Winchester model 1895.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
Dude, I want some lever guns so bad. I'm really hoping that when we get back to the gun show, they do have the Grant and Lee revolvers again.
Yeah. Oh, so much agree. I hope we can actually use them.
Yeah, I think they'd be usable.
Yeah.
They look like it.
They do. And honestly, technically, for if everything really falls apart, probably the best ones to have.
True, yeah, because
you don't need casings. You don't.
Yeah,
need
just
anything.
black powder.
You can make black powder.
Yeah.
You can find lead to use for that. So yeah. And then almost missed this one. That slow 7.3. Hang on. Appreciate that. Appreciate the truck that you drive, because I also have a slow 7.3 that is extremely slow right now because it's in the middle. New engine in it right now. Turns out, everybody, news. Turns out it wasn't my fault. Turns out the previous owner completely redid the engine improperly, used way too much gasket sealant, didn't let it cure, and then a ton of gasket sealant that bulged out on the inside of the engine at the seals, ripped off, and got so caught up in the oil cooler that oil was not circulating through that engine, causing it to overheat and then become the problem that it did. So, your boy wasn't a total idiot with his truck. Just so happens there was a problem with it that was not diagnosable upon purchase, but now getting essentially a brand new engine as a result. No questions about what's going on there, thankfully. And I've met some amazing guys at a local shop. DeMarco, they've done a great job so far, throwing on a turbo to provide a little cushion as well and provide me more information. One of the gauges I now have is a oil temperature gauge, so this will not happen again, despite the fact that, the guys who are working on it now are extremely good at what they do. So, yeah. That should be back on the road this week, thankfully.
I might have just found one I've got to buy at some point.
What's that?
The 1876, the Winchester.
Is that the shotgun?
No. It's Teddy Roosevelt's lever action.
Nice.
It looks so pretty.
Yeah, I like the Winchesters.
Would you like uppies? Not you. Would you like your... Okay, come on.
Attaboy.
He wanted uppies.
Anyway, that Slow73 says, if you guys ever come down to South Florida, I have a camp in the middle of the Everglades you're welcome to come out to. I promise I won't murder you. You know what?
Well, if you promise.
We're going to hold you to that.
You might need to pinky swear.
You might need to do just that. Yeah, sounds fun. Gom for 205 says, coming to Blondfest, where should I stay for cheap?
Mainstay is relatively cheap.
Relatively cheap. I wouldn't be shocked if it's pretty booked out.
Yeah, probably.
There's like a Marriott down the road. They're like all the hotels around here are pretty cheap because it's not like a destination area. Yeah. So really any hotel in the vicinity.
There's also Airbnbs.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends if you're getting a group together and things like that. So Fire on Target for $10 says, good afternoon, Aidens. Here's some things to look into for Young Earth video. Dr. James Torr, Dr. Jason Lyle, Dr. Russell Humphrey, Dinosaur Soft Tissue, and Answers in the Genesis website.
Oh God, not Answers in Genesis.
Are we doing a Young Earth creationist?
It's been talked about. I think I might need to at some point. It's a good conspiracy theory video.
Fair enough. Jenna for $9.99 says, in high school in Boulder, we did a rhetorical analysis of the ransom note and came to the conclusion that allegedly Burke did it, John dictated, and Patsy wrote the note. Your coverage is great.
That's pretty close to what my opinion was.
That's also wicked that you're doing that in the Boulder High School.
Yeah, I think the one thing is that I think John would have been intelligent enough to not write a 3-page long ransom note.
You know what we need to do? We need to watch the movie Ransom and see how long the ransom note is in that movie.
Yeah.
And what the actual content of that note is. Because I wouldn't be shocked if a couple lines at least were ripped from it.
Oh, yeah.
JMO, the only thing I'm saying from that is the fact that he's still asking you to read Berserk.
I'm just going to zoom in on it with my phone and read it that way.
Also, Quiet, Dignity, and Grace. Has anyone interviewed
I didn't like
adult
that.
Burke? Yes. Yeah, Dr. Phil did.
Phil.
And we're going to get to it.
Oh, my favorite part of it is that Dr. Phil interviewed Burke very favorably, very charitably, and that the whole reason the interview happened was because CBS came out with a documentary that really made a strong argument Burke did it. And then Burke went on Dr. Phil as a way to, dispel that belief and only made it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, can't wait to get to that.
And that the full interview has been scrubbed from the internet.
No, we found it.
We did eventually, but it was obviously an attempt to get rid of the full interview.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Hopefully it wasn't.
We didn't find it. Somebody
No, we found it.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, though, is that I don't know if it'll still be there. It was on YouTube at one point.
True,
it was just horrible quality.
Yeah.
Next is for $9.99. If you can help us make sure that we have that when the time comes, that'd be amazing. Next is for $9.99 says, I don't know how he said, I know what happened, and that wasn't taken more seriously. Meaning Burke.
The police didn't think that a 10-year-old was capable of that at the time.
Yeah, it's amazing how naive people used to be.
You going sleepy pies?
Oh, he's such a cutie. EK is asking me specifically to please enlighten us how Nietzsche is a Nazi. It's not that Nietzsche was a Nazi. It's
that
that
the Nazis were big Nietzsche fans.
yes, it's that a lot of the mentality and ideology of Nazism came from a lot of Nietzsche's ideas, particularly the idea of the Übermensch, a number of different elements, including the hefty levels of anti-Semitism. Nietzsche was very much not a fan in any way, shape, or form. The idea of eugenics also was kind of unofficially pioneered by Nietzsche in certain ways, and that kind of divergently evolved into the eugenics of the United States and also the eugenicism of the Nazis.
Hey, don't forget to give credit to our girl Margaret Sanger.
Yes.
She started a whole organization to get rid of black and poor people.
Yes.
And it still exists today.
Oh?
Margaret Sanger's the founder of Planned Parenthood.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You don't have to hate abortion, but you do have to hate Planned Parenthood.
Fair enough.
Because to say otherwise is to be like, imagine if the Nazis were still around, but they were, more progressive. We kind of be like, that's in the past. No, she was trying to eliminate black people. That was the original purpose of the organization.
How fun. How
Yeah.
nice.
I wrote a paper on that in college. Did not get a good grade on it.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of those things that people will try and pull out the ancient lore of me. Can I put you down for a second? I got to talk about serious stuff, and you're entirely too cute for this. No? Okay. One of the things that people try and pull up is like the ancient Aiden lore to make me look like some sort of like far right freak. I can't remember what I was saying.
The paper on the eugenicist.
Oh yeah, that I back when I was in freshman year of college, at the time Turning Point USA had like a professor watch list. That the point of the list was like, if you're a student who's not left wing, don't take courses with this professor because they are biased against you and will grade you differently than other students because of your political opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I had reported this teacher as somebody that students should watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets brought up as like, he tried to get he was trying to put a teacher on a hit list. And I was like, no, just like she graded it was a class about political writing, and she graded conservative leaning students more harshly.
Yeah.
That was like, I was a conservative leaning student at the time. I was graded more harshly, as were the other four of us. That was it. That was the only reason I said anything. It wasn't me saying, hey, this woman should be fired. It was just like, hey, if you're a student who's libertarian, this is not a good professor for you.
Yeah.
So
you were searching for fairness.
Literally. I was just like, don't take courses with her if you're not going to just agree with everything she says, because she will grade you more harshly than everybody else. Which I would give the same warning to people if a teacher was the same way on the right. Like,
or if, a male old professor hated girls.
Yeah, it's just, if a professor is biased against you, you should know that before taking courses with them.
Yeah. Valid.
Because I had a lot of professors who were very left-leaning who were very fair in their grading, no matter what your opinions were.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that should be praised. People like her should be avoided. That simple. You
know what's funny? This is just reminding me of when I was in journalism, when I was doing, because I have part of my degree is a journalism major, yada, yada, yada. In that class in junior year of college, she asked me, she was like, what do you really want to do? And I was like, well, I want to make films, but like, are we talking about like if I had to go into journalism? And she was like, yeah, And I was like, well, if I was going to do something, I would really love to be a part of an organization or a way of going through the various representations of a story and analyzing them for the accuracy and the truthfulness of them and coming to a more comprehensive level of a narrative.
You wanted to be ground news.
Yes. Or, what we do.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's not a job. That's not journalism. And I was like, are you sure?
Like it should be.
Yeah, I was like,
it's kind of what it's supposed to be.
That's kind of like the journalism of journalism. That's
good boy.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was an interesting conversation. It was like, yeah, no, if I was going to do that, I think I'd want to do this. And she was like,
Oh, I had a TV script writing
"Never mind,
professor.
'cause here we are.
I had a TV script writing professor who told me that I needed more diversity in my script, knowing that I was a historian and that I was big on historical accuracy as much as possible in film.
Yeah.
I told me I needed more diversity in a script, as in I needed like several like black or otherwise dark-skinned characters in a story that took place in Wales in the year 1400. And I just remember being like, the first documented black person in Wales is in the 1640s. Like, there's already a good amount of diversity for the time, given that I have English, Scottish, Irish, French, like...
Was that his gentle way
Her.
of saying
Her.
the way the world... Oh, her. Was that her gentle way?
Oh, no, when I followed up with, I just can't do that, like, it would be historically inaccurate, which would feel to me as a historian that to be dishonest.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you're never going to sell it otherwise.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was
it
like,
was
okay.
entirely trying to help you business-wise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She understood. She
Yeah.
wasn't saying, like, you're wrong about history. She was like, you're wrong for Hollywood.
Yeah.
So,
Fair. Andrew Gilly for 650, love the specificity, says, should check out Angry Cops video on the Elisa Lam case. He gives the NSVU detective's perspective on it. Just posted it today.
I will. I was thinking about looking at the Elisa Lam case, too,
Yeah.
recently. It's just, it's not really a necessarily our kind of thing, but I don't like... It's one of those ones that it's like, I don't know if I can add to it.
Fair. I gotta say,
And if I can't do it better than everybody else, I don't want to do it.
I am thoroughly entertained by the fact that you consistently say you want to avoid being a true crime channel when the vast majority of our videos have been true crime.
Technically, that's not true.
Missing 411 is true crime. Smiley Face Killers is true crime.
Technically, but not deliberately.
Yes, but the vast majority
know.
of it is true crime. Jack Meof for 556, nice, says, first live, watching since 2022, and don't have much to give due to a nasty breakup after 6 years, but your content has gotten me through a lot. Thank you. First off, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Second off, you never have to give. We appreciate that you do.
No, we appreciate it, but never feel like you have to.
Yeah, this is just a way for us to actually be able to see questions because the chat rolls by way too quickly. So
Yeah, and there's no way of going back and looking at it once it's rolled by.
yeah,
Like,
there's a certain level where we can no longer scroll any further. So like anything from anywhere near the first hour of the show, we can no longer access.
Nope.
So Super Chats keeps it here so you can actually like read these. So we appreciate everybody who does it. But yeah, sorry to hear about that. Thank you for listening and watching for as long as you have. We really appreciate it because it's means a lot that people hang around and still keeping wanting to watch us yap.
mhm.
Tyler Dalrymple for $10.69. Nice. Says, I blame the DA. I wonder how many other cases there have been that would have been solved if not for some bigwig with political ambitions who's concerned with the optics or implications. Clown world. The funniest thing about Alex Hunter is that he didn't have ambitions. He wanted to stay exactly where he was for as long as he possibly could,
Yep.
which meant doing as little as he possibly could within his job, which is just so sad. Look, do I understand the mentality? Yes. Go work in a warehouse or literally any other industry where sitting in the same level of position is acceptable and does not actively cause harm to other people.
That wasn't a cushy, air-conditioned office job.
Go be a manager at a Walgreens. Like, you know, I understand he wanted to, you know, make a little money and have really, it seems like he wanted the fame and the attention from it. But I understand wanting to have a consistent and, you know, nothing too insane to be done during the day job. Makes sense. That's not what a district attorney should be. That's not what should ever be expected of going into the job of district attorney. And anybody who is attempting to make a district attorney position into that should be ridiculed because you are actively then doing the opposite of what that job description entails, and you are borderline obstructing justice at that point. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shame. Anyway, Venus for $10 says, "Hey guys, I just wanted to say that you're both awesome and I love your content.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Been watching since the Dennis Martin collab with Mr. Goon and have been loving the John Bonet series. Thanks again."
Thank you.
Glad to hear that you're loving it. We appreciate the views.
Truly.
Matthew Wertenberger for $20 says, "Catching up in 2 times speed and finding out the Pope passed from the Lore Lads is a comical chipmunk voices is something that I, believe it or not, was on my 2025 bingo card. Also would love to see you back on the Red Thread and Pop Culture Crisis."
I can guarantee we'll be back on both. I'm actually, it looks like there's no official announcement for this yet. I am going to be on the Culture War, one of Tim Cast's other shows, doing a debate with Jay Dyer and Timothy Gordon.
I so want to be down there to watch that.
About, I will be the Protestant representative.
Really interesting.
Yes. Jay is Catholic and Timothy is Orthodox, I believe. It's going to be more of a discussion, I believe, but it's being billed as a debate. So I will be involved in that. And I'm also, it looks like, probably going to be on Timcast again at some point. I don't know for what, but my goal is to be able to talk about nuclear energy and trains.
I'd love to be there. I would understand if I don't get the opportunity, but if it's trains, I'm all in.
If you're not going to be allowed on with me, then I will make sure we go over our... I'll have you prep me.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you can be my fluffer.
There we go. Will you be my fluffer? Incredible. Evie of the Stars for $5 says, "Finally catching a live. Thanks for your kind words about Pope Francis at the beginning. Hope you had a happy Easter, guys."
You as well.
Yeah, it was a good one. And then this is the last one.
I actually did have a very good Easter. As I told you, just really quickly, we stayed out way too late on Saturday night. We went to go get dinner, and we were like, "Oh, let's go get a drink." And then we were out until 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I thought our Easter service was at 8:30 a.m. It was at 9:30. Something else was at 8:30. I'm new to this church. So I'm up at 7:30 in the morning. Hungover as hell. I stumble into the shower, and Amanda's like, "We don't have to go. Like, we can find another service to go to later, or we can just go next week." And I didn't say it at the time, but I'm sitting there in my head, and I'm just like, if Jesus Christ can raise from the dead, then I can rise from this hangover. And that is what got me into church.
So good.
That mantra in my head is what got me into church that morning.
So good. Meanwhile, I went to the church at 11:30 mass.
Oh yeah, you Roman Catholics and your 11:30 mass.
Well, and even for that mass, we all showed up at 11:30. By 11:35, we were wondering what's going on. The priest comes out at 11:40 and says, "Christ may have risen today, but I did not. I'm sorry, I overslept." And yeah, so that was our differentiating experiences. Then I'm just sitting next to my grandmother, having my right hand over my left to make sure she doesn't see the stamp from Molly's from the previous night. Because I was like, man, it feels a little wrong to be in here this morning with that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I had a very good Easter.
Nice.
It was good. We did church, came home, dealt with the dogs, and then headed over to my aunt's.
Yeah, we went to my aunt's as well.
Yeah, it was nice. We did an Easter egg hunt. I won.
Nice.
Yeah.
We did a chipping competition for golf.
Oh. Also, just to be clear, when I say we did an Easter egg hunt, I mean myself and my little sister, her boyfriend, my girlfriend, and several of our adult cousins.
Nice.
We weren't like, it wasn't me versus like a baby cousin.
Yeah, we
don't have any of those
It wasn't
anymore.
you like drop kicking toddlers.
I think the youngest of my cousins there was 16.
Okay.
And he's taller than me, so he can suck it.
Incredible. Last one from prior to 7:45, Dino Nuggies for 762, which is amazing. Says, "Finally caught one live. Thanks for all you do. I love you guys and hope YouTube treats your videos better."
We appreciate that. Thank you.
They treated our Missing 411 stuff last year.
They did. Yeah. Were there any other large donation ones that we should get to simply because they were large?
Yes, getting that now from Wildlife for $50 says, "I appreciate your work."
Well, thank you.
We appreciate your donation.
Thank
you
do
very much. Zach Hill for $10 says, "I appreciate your historical content. How do you feel about covering the Pikes Peak and Burial Mounds history in the Iowa-Wisconsin area? If you come to the area, I'll tour you."
I had seen some stuff about that. I wanted to look into that. I also saw a video from Desert Drifter from a couple of months ago or a little longer than a couple of months ago, that was about it's frustrating. He didn't name the location, but a spot in, I think it was New Mexico, where it was a weird series of cliff dwellings. Unfortunately, as I found out while looking at the comments of that video, he actually passed away recently, which sucks because he had some amazing stuff. It's crazy. It was this video of him like hiking, through this weird little village on inside of a cliff face. 400-foot drops below him. Apparently, he died in a car crash. Like, it's crazy. People go out and do stuff like that, and then you die sitting at a red light.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then the last one that we haven't previously covered, that is of a relatively large amounts from Tish R for $10, saying, "How do you guys feel about the people who talk about Jesus not being just one guy?" My initial thought was, well, I guess he's technically three.
Yeah, technically, Jesus is three guys in one guy. Even me saying it that way is probably a heresy. But like. Yeah, no, Jesus was, heresy. That's how I respond to it. It's an unsupported heretical opinion. Jesus was not multiple guys. Jesus was one guy. Also, the people who are like, why did none of the contemporary historians mention Jesus? It's like, well, first of all, Jesus wasn't really a big deal outside of 150 square mile area until after he died.
Yeah.
So that's why. Also, why do you expect some guy who lived in northern Spain and was a historian of agriculture to mention some random Jewish dude from Galilee? That doesn't make sense.
You got to remember,
within a century of his death, people are talking about him.
Yeah, you got to remember, information traveled far slower back then.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally.
The fact of the matter is, the vast majority of scholars of every single persuasion agree that Jesus of Nazareth most likely existed. The agreement starts to break down after that.
Yeah, at the very least,
but he was a guy.
He was a guy who existed.
Yeah.
Everything else, depending on your belief system, is debatable. But
yeah. So, all right.
That's it.
Did we actually end the show at a reasonable time tonight?
At a reasonable time, yes.
Wow. All right, let's go. Thank you, everybody. It has been very real. We very much appreciate your time with us, your views, your donations. You make what we do possible, and I hope that we continue to serve you in the manner that you see fit.
Absolutely. This coming week, you will see a video on the Bennington Triangle.
Yes.
And then
I apologize if my reading feels stilted. For some reason, I could not get into a rhythm.
I think you did all right.
All right. Well, he's seen it.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was doing History on Hinge today.
Oh, okay. Then he hasn't seen it.
Yep.
I was probably more in my head about it than I needed to be. I just felt weird.
Well, you hadn't eaten.
I hadn't eaten. That was part of it.
Your sleep was a little off.
Yeah. It's, you know what? It's fine.
Take your ADHD meds.
That also, too. Yeah.
A hurricane.
It's weird. I can't decide whether I'm better on or off the meds for the scripting days.
Just got to keep A/B testing, I guess. Kind of like we do with our.
I think it might have just been it was probably the food. I probably just need to make sure I eat a full meal before we film.
Yeah.
So that my brain has food and is not. Also, I was on a diet all week. So I think my body was probably in shock. Being like, what do you mean you're not eating 3,000 calories a day? Cut that in half because I was getting chonky.
Chonks?
Yeah. Can't be chonky. Especially when we're trying to shoot the sexy calendar in 2 weeks.
Have we, or do we know who
your girlfriend decided we were doing it?
No, I know. She's like the only person who actually keeps us on track.
Yeah, I know. We'll find somebody to do it.
Cool.
I'm sure there's a local photographer. Sam Hendel.
Cool.
Yeah, you might do it. All right. Will do. Well, thank you, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow, Monday.
Bye.